Hello everyone, Paul from Paul Goes Coding. Today we are going to be taking a look at a matchup simulator tool built in Microsoft Excel, matchup simulation for trading card games. In particular, my focus with this tool has been Magic the Gathering. That's the game that I play more so than most of the others. The tool, however, is expandable and customizable to cope with trading card games of any kind. If you've already seen enough and you get the gist of what's going on here and you're ready to dive in, you can download the file at the link below in the description box. It is free to download, so go on there, give it a go, see how you get on. You can come back and look at the rest of the video if anything's not clear. So this particular video is a demonstration of the tool. I'm going to be talking a little bit about, at the beginning here, about why I built it and what its purpose is and what it's there for. So something I've struggled with, I've played Magic probably for something like 13 years, mostly online, but also quite a bit of Friday Night Magic. And something that I've always struggled with has been when I've been wanting to simulate a particular matchup of two different decks or two different archetypes to get a sense of whether what I was brewing and the deck that I was preparing to bring to a competition was going to be competitive. And so I would do what a lot of people do, I think, in that, for example, in simulating my deck against Burn, I play a lot of Modern in Magic. I would have proxies made up of the Burn deck. I couldn't afford to buy the cards. I didn't have Eidolon of the Great Revel and all the rest of it. I would use proxies in paper. And I would have my own deck, and I'd shuffle up, and we'd be cracking and fetching and taking shortcuts and doing the best you can. But in the space of an hour, you might only be able to simulate, a handful of matches. And so, what I thought would be really useful is a software tool, and I think Microsoft Excel is a good platform to use to do this, where you could quickly simulate both sides of a game of Magic the Gathering or any other TCG that follows that format. So that's what this tool has been built to essentially do. So the idea of the tool is that you can quickly and easily test a particular matchup over and over again very, very quickly to get a sense of whether the deck you're brewing is competitive against whatever deck it is that you're worried about facing or that you think you might be facing. If you're playing Friday Night Magic and all of your friends play Burn and you want to know how well your build of Boggles is going to do, whether you should maybe be how much risk you can take and what types of cards that you play in that deck. You can load up those two decks in this tool. You can run a bunch of matches quickly in Excel with easy shortcuts and everything done for you in terms of drawing cards, shuffling your library, putting cards on the bottom, fetch lands I've automated there as well. You can record the results and make decisions about what you're going to do in preparation for that FNM. So we'll switch the video off here so I'm not taking up space on the screen, and we'll start talking through the tool, how to use it. It's extremely simple, and I hope it's of use to you guys. So let's get started here by simulating a particular matchup. I think I'm going to switch these decks over. They're both quite interactive, and there's a lot of decisions to make just for the purpose of the demonstration. Let's make it Burn versus Boggles. And as you can see, when I'm changing these in the drop-down, the deck lists automatically load in on the left-hand side here. I've got a little general note here as well, though. Please don't edit the cells here directly. If you're looking at this list and you decide you only want 3 Daybreak Coronets, or 0 would be even better for those Boggles players out there, please. If you do want to change that for some reason, you do it in the Decks tab, which I'll explain at the end. This area out here is where the rest of your library is recorded, and you can cheat by actually highlighting these cells and having a look in the box up here about what's in your deck. You can do that if you want. I don't really care. This area here is where the battle's mainly going to take place, and you're free to move things around in here. And you can type once the game starts, you can type notes. You can type anything you like in any cell. You can represent graveyards wherever seems convenient to you. I like to put them down under on the left-hand side here. So let's get started. We'll assume the Burn player is going first for this simulation. And the first thing, of course, we do is draw 7 cards and decide whether to mulligan. So this is Eidolon of the Great Revel, Lightning Bolt, Lightning Spike, Lava Spike, Boros Charm, Rift Bolt, Goblin Guide, Arid Mesa. It's a one-lander, but Burn does tend to need to keep one-landers, so this will be a keep. Boggles player, meanwhile, has drawn Keen Sense, Ethereal Armor, Rancor, that's Razorverge Thicket, Daybreak Coronet, Windswept Heath, and Horizon Canopy. So I think that that is a mulligan because we don't have any creatures. We don't even have a Dryad Arbor. So the way I simulate mulligans, I don't have a little draw 6 counter or something here. I just draw another 7 and delete the one on the end. So rather than delete, I put it on the bottom of the library, which you do by selecting the card you want to put on the bottom. Clicking the bottom button puts it on the bottom of the library. We're then going to shuffle the library by hitting the shuffle button. And that's happening in the background without you guys having to worry about it. Okay, what have we got this time? Spirit Dancer, Core Spirit Dancer, Horizon Canopy, Gladecover Scout is a hexproof creature, Dryad Arbor, Temple Garden is TG. The reason I use such brief abbreviations for the Shocklands is that you're fetching them so often. And as we'll see with the fetch mechanic, you need to type in the name of the land you're fetching. And another Spirit Dancer. So this is a keep. We also have a free Scry. To simulate free Scry, what I like to do is simply draw the card that we're talking about. It's a Rancor. I think we'd like to keep that. And so what we do is we don't push bottom. We just put this to one side. So we know it's on the top of our library. We aren't going to draw a card when the time comes. We're going to pull the Rancor up into our hand. So our hand is written here. Player 1's hand is written here. Our life totals are here. Let's begin the game. Player 1 doesn't draw a card, plays a land. And I like to use the row that the life total's on to represent the lands. The immediate thing that the Burn player is going to want to do is play Goblin Guide. And we're going to do that by cracking Arid Mesa to fetch a Sacred Foundry, which we do by moving Arid Mesa to the graveyard. We then type in the name of the land we're fetching. Sacred Foundry is, and you can check if you're not sure what to type in, you can just check what the lands are that are in the deck by scrolling down. We fetch it by highlighting the cell itself and hitting fetch. Right, so if you accidentally press Lava Spike and hit fetch, it'll do exactly what it says on the tin. It'll fetch Lava Spike out of your library. And thin the library by one copy of that card. So try not to make that mistake. I guess if you do, it's not the end of the world. It's not going to statistically change things massively, but it's for accurateness' sake, it's an important feature. The act of doing all of this, we've cracked a Pain land, we've fetched a Shock land, we're leaving it up. That's going to cost us 3 life. Type in our new life total. We cast the Goblin Guide, and creatures I like to play in front of the lands with a space in between. The Sacred Foundry is being tapped, so we can represent that by pulling it down one. And this is a little bit similar to what it feels like when you're physically looking across at a player, playing a TCG, moving your creatures around, doing whatever you're doing. Goblin Guide has haste. It'll be attacking, which we represent by tapping by moving it into the row below. There's a trigger that goes off that allows us to look at the top card of the library. We all know already what it is. It's Rancor. That card will not be being put into our hand by Goblin Guide's ability because it needs to be a land. The upshot is we take 2 damage and pass the turn. Player 2, draw a card. We aren't going to be hitting the draw button. We're going to be putting Rancor into our hand. And the first thing we're going to do, I think, is almost certainly play Temple Garden into Gladecover Scout. Temple Garden comes in untapped, so we take 2. Pass the turn. And as you can see, the flow and the ebb, and we can very quickly, once you get used to using the tool and clicking the buttons, you can become a lot faster than what I'm doing here. So we've untapped here. Draw a card for the Burn player. We missed land, unfortunately, at least from their perspective. So what we'll do here is Goblin Guide will get in. I think that the Hexproof player is going to let that through. So the trigger goes off again. Is it land? It is. Goes into our hand. Goblin Guide deals us 2. I think then the Goblin player, the Burn player suspends Rift Bolt, which you can just put anywhere. The suspend zone can be absolutely anywhere. Let's put it over here. Doesn't matter. Untap for the second turn of the Hexproof Boggles player's turn. We're drawing a card as normal, hitting the draw button. And we're in a little bit of trouble. We can play a Spirit Dancer, but it's a 0-2 with no way to beef it up. We don't want to play Horizon Canopy in particular. We don't want to crack it just yet. We could play Dryad Arbor to chump Goblin Guide. Yeah, I think we might try to resolve Spirit Dancer and just do nothing else, which we can't do with the Dryad Arbor, so we'll do it with a Razorverge Thicket. And sorry for those Boggles players who are watching this who are screaming, "No, that's not what you would do, you moron!" I'm sorry, I don't play Boggles, but I'm taking a bit of a guess as to how you guys would approach the situation. Obviously, being on 14 life, so let's get to the Burn player's third turn. Riftbolt is going to come off the suspend and resolve. I don't have 2 lands yet, and I'm worried about that Spirit Dancer, so I am going to go ahead and murder the Spirit Dancer. And that's bought the Boggle player a bit of time, but maybe that's what would happen. We finally hit a land. We can't Searing Blaze, although maybe I should have played to Searing Blaze on the Spirit Dancer, but anyway. Right, so this hand pretty much plays itself out. We're going to attack with Goblin Guide. This time we aren't blocking, not that we did before. Trigger of the Goblin Guide, there's Coronet, can't draw it yet. Take 2 damage. I think what the Burn player does here is play Eidolon, because that's what they always do against me. Okay, Boggle's third turn, draws the Coronet. And now we have something truly sickening. One of the most horrific things that can happen to anyone in Modern, anywhere, is Horizon Canopy taps for 1 green mana. We pay a life to do that, to cast Rancor on the Gladecover Scout. And we might want to move our Scout over here just to keep it nice and easy when we see what's happening. Daybreak Coronet needs double white. We play that. Coronet goes on, and now, geez, I don't even know what this thing is. It's +3/+3, +2. So this thing I think is a 6/4 with Trample, Vigilance, Lifelink, First Strike. Anyway, whatever. It's attacking. I don't actually know if I'm trying to think now if it has Vigilance. I think it does. I'll assume for now that it does. That's going to be a 6-point life gain swing. The Burn player is basically despairing at this point. I can't, as the Burn player, you can't use Lightning Bolt and Searing Blaze to get rid of it, and the matchup has become just the game that you're simulating has become completely hopeless for the Burn player. We conclude therefore that the Boggles player has won this game, and we're ready to finish. So we record the victory to the Boggles player. And let's go again. Hit the reset button. All starts again. Maybe the Boggles player goes first this time. Draw a hand. Decide whether to mulligan it, etc., etc., etc. So that's how you use the tool. I'm trying to think. I don't think there's anything we didn't see there in terms of functionality. One thing to bear in mind is there's a weird thing that happens just when you've changed your deck. As we'll see in a moment, we're going to go in and edit some decks. After you've made an edit to your deck, you have to go in here and reselect the deck in question. You have to do what I just did then in order to load it into column A. It's an annoying little thing that I never got around to tweaking. But so yeah, how do you edit your decks or load new decks in? The tool can handle about, I think, something like 400 decks, but that's just a limit I put in there just for convenience sake. There's no reason why you couldn't have 10,000 different decks. So this is the Decks tab. You can see here they're all listed here. The name of the deck is at the top, and then the deck itself begins on row 3. So here's my favorite deck of all time, 8-Rack. We've got Thoughtseizers, Dismembers, Inquisitions of Kozilek, all with abbreviations. Swamp is represented with an S. And the 60 cards occupy rows 3 to 62. This is a 60 card tool at the moment. I don't have an automatic customizable way to make to simulate 40 or 100 cards. However, that is exceedingly easy to do, and at the end of the video, I'll talk a little bit about customization. So to add a new deck, all you do is you find a space somewhere. I mean, it doesn't matter that there's spaces between. That's just a visual thing. I'm a Modern player, so I've got a lot of Modern in here. I've done my best for the purpose of the tool that it's available for download to put in some Standard decks as well. This is like, Random Up Red and stuff like this. I don't play Standard, but it's all here. To add a new deck, call it something, and type in the deck list. Let's just say we've got 60 ridiculous word letters in here, right? Okay, so we've done that. We go back in here. The reset button we'll load that deck in, and there it is, as you can see down the left-hand side. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So look, I hope you guys find this thing useful. You can click the link in the description box down below. I'll have a link pop up in the video here as well, see if I can do that. It is free to download. There's like a donate button on there as well. If people are finding the tool useful, download it first, make sure everything works for you. But if you are getting use out of it, obviously I would appreciate any encouragement in the comments box, and any donation of any size would be gratefully appreciated. I am willing to build, to continue customizing and making this thing better, and I've got a number of other Excel tools for TCGs in the pipeline as well. This is the first one that I've sort of put out there on the internet and made available to download. So very eager to see what you guys think. Any feedback is very, very welcome. One final thing before I sign off is that when you download the file, I'm not making any guarantees as to the, in terms of whether it's attached. It comes with viruses attached and stuff. You should run your own virus scanning check on the file that you download. I am using free hosting and free domains for the link to the file. For my part, I can promise that I've inserted no malicious software into the file itself. Second thing is that you will also need to enable macros in Excel for this to work. Hopefully what that means is that when the file loads, what it should immediately come up with is a warning saying, do you wish to trust the content of this file? Go ahead and hit the yes button to that to enable macros, otherwise none of the buttons will work. For those of you who are interested in developing and customizing the tool yourselves, I'm going to take just a few minutes before I sign off here to talk to you about how to do that. So all of this code, it's all totally open source. You guys can hack in here. You can create your own 40 deck version, your own Elder Scrolls version. You can make new buttons. You can do absolutely anything you like with it. The way to do that is on the developer tab, assuming you've got it enabled. You can go into design mode and see how all of these buttons work, which I'll just do by pushing Alt F11. Yep. So this is when you click the bottom button for player 1. Here are all the instructions. It goes and does a bunch of stuff and shuffles the deck, and it's all viewable and changeable. You guys can do anything you want to this. I'm not precious about it at all. For those of you who are minded in that way. So, look, thanks again, guys. Hope it's of use to you, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.